Hi, what could be better than a new home? And I'm not just talking about trading up to buy someone else's house that they're trading up from. I'm talking about a brand new home, whether it's a condo, whether it's a townhouse, single family home, it's brand new. No dirt in the corners. You got brand new appliances, you got a brand new furnace, and something that nobody else has ever lived in before. What could be better than that? Well, in many cases, that is pretty cool. And in many cases, it can be the best thing you can do. But there is a downside. If you don't know what you're looking at, if you don't know what you're doing, if you get caught in the traps that are built into this system, it could cost you time, it could cost you money, and you may not be able to get out. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're in the market for a house, a new home could be an option for you. Let's face it, if it's brand new, it's built tighter, it's got a new roof, better insulation, windows are better, you've got warranties. What could go wrong? Well, plenty. But first, let's talk about the good things. First thing is, you've got the latest fashion trends right in front of you. The builders are taking things right from the magazines and putting them right in front of you. So they're wide open spaces. They got quartz countertops. They got the latest and the best flooring materials, up to the minute colors, high ceilings, and everything that everybody wants right now. So that's good. For the first period of ownership, you're going to have fewer maintenance problems. You're going to have fewer unexpected capital expenses. So, from that viewpoint, it could be less expensive first bunch of years that you own the place. So that's a good thing. A lot of things that you as a buyer aren't going to be aware of is that anything that's built now is built on the latest building codes. So they're safer. Geometry is more amenable. They're often more seamless, safer stair geometry. You got modern plumbing fixtures and materials. They've learned from a lot of the mistakes over materials that have been used in the past. So a lot of those things are just not there. And that's a good thing. Accessibility is often much, much higher in a newer construction property that you're going to find out there today as opposed to 15, 20 years ago. And if you're looking for a condo, this can be particularly important because of insurance issues and coverages that can impact the costs over time. And when the builders are building, they're building where you want to be. So it's close to amenities, it's close to dining, it's close to shopping. Many communities are sprouting up in what are called town centers or on the fringes of town centers. So it's not an hour's trip to the nearest grocery store, and you can walk where you want to be, or you can walk just to walk. So there are good things that are planned into these communities that you want to take advantage of. Condos often have things like roof decks, party rooms, they have facilities for pets and all of that. So there are a lot of things that get planned into newer construction that you won't see in an older house, particularly in Montgomery County. Many of these things are aimed at first-time buyers or downsizers because convenience is important, and they're trying to get you to be able to take advantage of that. Now, let's talk about some of the downside. First thing you want to know about is there can be delays, and this is not unusual. And those delays can come from permitting problems, they can come from weather delays, they can come from things that are beyond your control, yet they could impact you, and you have to take responsibility for them. So they're not taken lightly, and they shouldn't be taken lightly, and they are very real. Consider the winter we just had that delayed the start of the building season this year. Most people, when they're buying a resale property, they build in the contract settlement date, and that's usually pretty solid. It doesn't go anywhere in most cases unless there's a problem on either side of the table. Usually, once you've nailed down a settlement date, that's when you're settling. With new builds, new construction, that isn't always the case, and you got to be really aware of that. In addition to things we already talked about, you could have labor shortages, you could have utility connection delays, you could have supply chain issues, inspectors that get delayed. So there's a whole host of things that can happen. Builders do their best to make sure things move smoothly. However, there are things out of their control as well. And ultimately, they're going to impact you when you're ready to settle and when you're ready to close. And one of the things with regards to a delay is how it can impact your financing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, let's say there is a delay. If it's long enough and you have kids going to school, it could impact the start of school. There could be storage costs. Maybe your lease expires at a certain point, and now to extend that lease might cost you significantly more than what you were paying. So there are definite things that impact you because of any delays that could occur. If your financing rate lock expires, that could cost you money as well. And the lender is not going to take care of any of this for you. The contracts, as we'll get into in a bit, are pretty one-sided. So if you run into trouble, you're going to have to solve it. So be aware of that. All right. In addition to delays, there could be appraisal issues. Now, one of the things that you really need to be careful of is there is potentially a risk at appraisal time. So when you buy new, you're buying at a premium. You're not getting a discounted property price. The builder may, in some cases, negotiate on the price a bit, but not significantly so. So you're buying at a premium price whenever you're buying a new property. So the appraisal has got to account for that. And if it doesn't appraise, there could be an issue. If during the time when the property is being built, the market softens a little bit, demand goes down, it might not appraise. In many cases, an appraisal contingency that we're used to having doesn't really exist in the buyer contract. So there could be a problem resulting in you having to bring more cash to the table. And that may or may not be something you can do. So the appraisal can be an issue, and it's something to watch for. If it appraises low, there could be a problem. Keep in mind, from the point that you actually contract on the property and its delivery might be 3 months, might be 6 months, depends on the community. And that can impact demand, that can impact the appraisal value that's going to come back to you. Keep in mind that the appraisal is for the benefit of the lender, not you. And if you can't meet the terms that now are brought for you, your deposit could be at risk. And in many cases, the deposit on a purchase such as this is higher than normal or higher than in the resale market. Another thing to watch for is property tax shock. Many times communities spring up from land that is sold that was unoccupied. Maybe it was farmland, maybe it was an old industrial site, whatever it may be. It may have been vacant, it may not have been occupied. So the tax assessed value at that time prior to the construction, new construction that is, could be quite a bit lower. So the taxation and the tax levels that are being applied could change dramatically at the point you buy a seven, eight, $900,000 property, because now it's going to be based on that new value. So you have to watch for that. Taxes could skyrocket on a new construction depending on the circumstances and depending on the property on which it was built. Now, this is something to really watch out for. HOA and condo fees at the point where a property is being built, they're going to be kept on the low side. And quite frankly, when the project is under the purview of the builder and the developer, there's not a whole lot of cost. But once it transfers to the ownership of the association itself that's formed, costs can show up now that weren't there before, and they can dramatically increase the HOA or the condo fees that you're going to be assessed and levied. And you will have to pay them. If you don't, there will be problems. At the start of the project, the reserves may not be adequate. There may be little, there's a certain amount supposed to be kept in place by law, but over time, the association is going to have to build those. And if there's some major issue that arises in the community and it's not met with because of the reserve level that is at the point where the properties are being built, that may come through to you later as a special assessment at quite a cost. So be aware. The condo and HOA fees that are being advertised at the point where you put your contract in may vary widely from the point that you buy, and maybe a year or two or three down the road, they could go up dramatically, and you got to be prepared for that. Many times builders will advertise incentives, $10,000, $20,000 towards closing costs. That's all fine, it's all very attractive, but often that's just smoke and mirrors. In Montgomery County and across the region, it's typical to share the transfer and recordation taxes between the buyer and the seller. In the case of new construction, that almost all gets shunted over towards the buyer side. So in many cases, you could be paying double the transfer and recordation fees that you would normally with buying a resale. That $10,000 or $20,000 that the builder is offering you as an incentive to purchase may just go against things that you wouldn't have to pay for if you were buying from a private seller on the open market. Additionally, those incentives often come only if you use their providers, meaning the lender, meaning the title company. If you don't know them, you have to be careful of what kind of product you're going to get. They are working in conjunction with the builder. So if you don't have the ability to vet your lender or vet your title company, there could be problems between the point where you contract and get to settlement, and very little you can do about it. As well, the contracts themselves are pretty much leaning towards the builder themselves. There are fewer contingencies, there are fewer escape hatches, as it were. So all of this becomes a situation wherein if you don't know what you're doing and what you're agreeing to, it could be a problem later on. And you may not find out about it till closer to settlement. And that's when the most dangerous time is to find out there's a problem. Now, when you're buying new construction, you would expect that the benefit of the warranties that are in place, and there are quite a few that are going to come with a new property, would save you from a lot of grief and a lot of heartache once you're in the property. And mostly that's true, but in some cases, you can have disputes over what's considered cosmetic and what's considered structural. There can be slow response times, and the subcontractors can blame each other, so you never really get to the root of who in fact caused the problem in the first place. So despite these warranties that are in place, sometimes trouble isn't easily resolved before settlement or immediately after, or for the next couple of years that you own the property. Some have said that a warranty is only as good as the builder who provides it, and that can often be true. Probably the biggest thing you have to watch out for when you're buying new construction. And again, buying a new home can be a good thing and it can work out. Any house you buy on the open market from a seller at once was a new home and somebody bought it. The thing that most people aren't aware of is that because you're buying at the top of the market, you may or may not see appreciation for some time once you're in the property. The old adage that if you buy a new car and you drive it off the lot, it depreciates 20% automatically. Well, that kind of applies to houses as well. You are not going to buy the house at a discount rate from a builder. They're recovering a lot of costs, a lot of expenses in the process of marketing these properties. And they're using materials and they're using professionals to design, and they all have to get paid too. So none of these properties are being delivered to you as a new home at a discount rate by any stretch of the imagination. They're very expensive, and I've had about 3 situations in the last couple of years where someone bought new and had to sell early because of some change in life that was unavoidable, and they lost money in the process, and only a year or two later. So you can buy a new property and expect that you'll sell it for what you bought it for, but don't count on it. It's probably not going to happen. So that could cost you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the property. So realize you're buying a property that after the sale may not be worth what you paid for it. As part of that pricing structure, realize that when a property is in an area, a community is advertised that's starting in the $500,000, you got to know that the $500,000 property is basic. It's probably not what you want. So you're going to be talked into and shown add-ons and improvements and upgrades, and all of those are also going to be sold to you at a premium price. What about inspections? Well, many builders will allow you to bring in a private inspector to check out the property. Some won't, but those that do often do have restrictions on times, how long you're allowed to be there, things like that, that limit your ability to do a thorough inspection. And depending solely on the builder's representations may not be a wise idea. And having that third party who's disinterested telling you what may or may not be wrong with the property is very important. I've seen punch lists on new properties that are longer than properties that have been standing around for 50 or 100 years. And that's not an exaggeration. So be aware that the condition of the property is not something that you may easily find out, and you may have to jump through a few hoops to ensure is proper and up to current standards. You definitely should have the ability to vet out and use a title company that you're satisfied with, a lender you feel comfortable with, and have an inspector checking your house from an independent viewpoint that lets you know what's right and what's wrong with the property. So, a new house, it's a great idea. And for many, it works out just fine. When it doesn't, it can bring pain, suffering, and heartache because you didn't know what was happening. So get yourself a reputable agent who can talk you through these things and help you make sure that your rights are preserved, because it can go wrong. And if you don't have someone advocating for you, you may not have much in the way of options. At any rate, buy your house, have a blast with it, and get to settlement easily and seamlessly. And I'll see you next time.